Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Yomavat Vyapta Dehaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavatthaye Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaye Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu mamangani.
Apyayantu mamangani.
Vak prana chakshuhu.
Vak prana chakshuhu.
Shotram atho balamindriyani cha sarvani.
Shotram atho balamindriyani cha sarvani.
Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam.
Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam.
Maham Brahma Nirakuryam.
Maham Brahma nirakuryam.
Mama Brahma Nirakarot.
Mama Brahma nirakarot.
Anirakarnamastu. Anirakarnam me astu.
Anirakaranam astu.
Tadatmani nirate ya Upanishatsu.
Tadatmani nirate Upanishadsu.
Dharmaste mayi santu.
Dharmaste mayi santu.
Te mayi santu.
Te mayi santu.
Om
Om
Shanti
Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Wish you all a very wonderful Christmas and a wonderful New Year season. Everybody makes sankalpa during New Year. That sankalpa it ends within about a week. Sankalpa we make is to know myself. It takes longer than the New Year sankalpa because it has to resolve so many different ideas we have gathered either through our own experiences or because we heard somebody else or you've read somewhere. It has to be resolved because each one of these on examination, on vichara, on discriminative inquiry, has flaws in them. Have flaws. All of them have flaws. We tend to accept some of them because we don't have another option. We don't know any better. Idea of studying Vedanta is to try and understand each of these flaws and then to get to the reality of myself. For that, we need a pramana. Otherwise, like most drawing room arguments, because I have formulated an idea, no basis, it will be just one's own inferred idea. Eyes are the pramana for sight. It can reach a certain distance as long as it is within the line of vision. Once there's a bend, there is no pramana. It's not accessible to the pramana because it is dependent on that direct vision called pratyaksha pramana, direct. Anything bent around anywhere becomes non-available. Similarly, ears of pramana for sound. Up to a certain distance, ears can pick it up. Up to certain frequencies, ears can pick it up. Only a small range. Unlike dogs, which can pick up much, much wider range than other animals. We have a very limited range which our ears can pick up. That is all that it is pramana for. Similarly, nose can pick up smell, and therefore pramana for smell. And these pramana will operate whether you want it to or you don't want it. When you're doing some serious work, office work, these are all work from home. No? And then something very nice is being cooked in the kitchen, very tempting. You feel like switching off the video and going seeing what is cooking. You don't have a choice. But there are certain subjects, fields in which they operate and have certain limitations. Like taste and touch, for example, have to be here now. I can't taste something which is sitting in New York. These are all called pratyaksha pramana. Everything in this world we know by pratyaksha pramana with some modifications. Enhanced pratyaksha pramana, derived from the pratyaksha pramana, inference and so on. All our lives are run by that only. Our lives in this jagat are run by that. But even in this world, there are some things which are not accessible to these pramana directly. So I have to infer from something else. And for that, really the only thing available is words. Like we discussed, somebody who's been to Seychelles and comes back and says, wonderful beach, wonderful people, wonderful food. We don't know. It is not pratyaksha. We have not seen it, tasted it. But we are depending on his words. This kind of knowledge we gain through this pramana is generally subject to later validation. You accept it for what it is. Maybe if you trust that guy, or if you think because he's gone through bad experience, he also wants you to go through bad experience, then you don't trust him. But if you trust that person's judgment, more common example is somebody comes and tells me it's a lovely movie. Go and see it. I went and saw it last week. Subject to later validation. Unless you go and see it yourself and they make a judgment saying no good or very good. That is only through words. Words are a pramana in the jagat, but always subject to further verification. Some of them we accept as it is because we have no real way of verifying it. When you study science, geography, the teacher tells us, the science book tells us that the earth is spherical. We accept it. Although we have no direct perception of that. We don't have not except for a few people who go up into the space, we can't see the earth as being spherical. That's my indirect evidence available. I remember my geography book had these 3 different proof You say you sit in the beach and see the ship coming, you can only see the mast first and then you can see a little bit more. So you know it's curved. But do we ever sit and do that? How many times can you sit on the beach and watch the ship coming in? Similarly, the other indirect proof given, I remember in school book is, you see the shadow of the earth during the waxing and waning of the moon. Oh, that's also curved. So I can indirectly infer, but I accept those words for what they are. Similarly, in the Karma Kanda of the Vedas, it tells you there is reincarnation, punarjanma. Because I accept that as a pramana, I accept there's punarjanma. There is no direct evidence. I cannot recall my previous janma. Like Arjuna, when he questions Bhagavan in the 4th chapter, how did you teach Vivaswan? He is so far before you. Bhagavan tells him, you have taken many births, I have taken many births. You don't know about them. I know about all of them. How do you know they were births? Again, there's indirect evidence. One inferential evidence is to question why at the same time, same place, children born are so different from each other, or born to different parents. So there must be something before this. Punarjanma. Sometimes we have some indirect evidence. There are evidence of very, very young infants talking languages unknown to the family. They are recorded evidence. So indirect evidence. Like we accept earth is round, we accept that there is punarjanma, there is punya papa, that if you do certain karma, you will get certain result. Putra kameshti agnya. The couple doesn't have a child. Shastra says, you want a child? Go do putra kameshti agnya. We accept it because the Shastra says so. Veda says so. And one does it with all sincerity and hopes that the result will come, because we don't have a direct means of perception of that. Again, we have some indirect evidence. Recorded cases of couples who have not been able to get a child despite all their effort with modern medicine, fertility clinics, whatever else. And eventually, Putra Kameshti Agni, and they do have a child. There's some evidence gathered. This Karma Kanda tells us a lot of things about what would be the result if one does certain things. It tells us about lokas, non-verifiable. Directly or indirectly, non-verifiable. Because we accept the Veda as a pramana, as a means of knowledge, the entire Veda, we accept that there are lokas. What are these lokas? We don't know. Is it another planet like Earth? We don't know. But we accept it that if you want to reach that loka, where there is a lot of sukha, you do all this. In Kenopanishad, Nachiketa was taught what to do this, how to do this by Yamaraja himself. This is not pratyaksha. Pratyaksha means direct. It is somewhere away from you, not directly accessible to the five senses. Indriya Atita. But we accept it. Not because of pratyaksha pramana, but paroksha pramana. Paroksha is away from you. Like the fellow who comes and tells you, wonderful place to go to Seychelles. Him you don't accept directly as a pramana. Maybe, maybe not. But Shastra we accept as pramana. But when you want to know the truth of yourself, neither pratyaksha will help, nor will paroksha help. How are you ever going to know I? It gets complicated further, as we saw earlier, that in every other case, there is a pramatru, there is a knower, and there's a prameya, there's an object to be known. Here we don't have that. The pramatru and the prameya are the same. The seeker is the sought. The knower is the object to be known. How do we gain this knowledge? Again, our pramana is the end portion of the Veda, Vedanta. Other stipulation that's given in the Shastra itself, because Shastra is our pramana, not the words of Vedanta, but the words of Vedanta unfolded by a Guru. There's always a combination. I'm a great Sanskrit scholar. I can get hold of the original of this Upanishads, and I will find out. It doesn't work. That is not the pramana. That, as we saw in Mundaka Upanishad, is still aparavidya. That by which you cannot know Aksharam Brahma. You cannot know that Aksharam Brahman is I. That Paravidya, which gives you knowledge of Aksharam Brahma as I, is this combination of the words of the Upanishad, Shabda Pramana, combined with the teaching of a Guru. Therefore, it is neither pratyaksha, directly available to the senses, nor paroksha, not directly available to the senses, but indirectly I can gain the knowledge. So what do we call it? Shastra calls it aparoksha jnanam. Already we have this issue. Aparoksha jnanam will mean opposite of paroksha. Paroksha is distance, away from you, not accessible to the senses. So when I say aparoksha, does that mean that it is near me and accessible to my senses? I'm taking the opposite. No. Paroksha, very special word, applicable only to this knowledge of I. It is not paroksha. It is you. Nothing can be nearer. That is why it's called aparoksha. It is still not available to the senses. I cannot see myself. I cannot smell myself. You can smell the dirt in your body. You don't take a bath for several days. But you cannot smell yourself. None of the indriyas will help. I'm told in Europe, cold country, and in the Middle East, hot country, in the old days, Nobody used to take a bath. The fellow in Europe will take a bath just before the wedding. That's all. Then you can smell not yourself, others can also smell you. This I, which is the subject and the object, can be known only through this pramana, Vedanta pramana. That portion which appears at the end of each Veda. Together, they are called Upanishads. They are called Upanishads because they all contain this knowledge of the aikyam of myself and Parameshwara as Brahman, the oneness, the non-separateness. Since I've accepted this as a pramana, I accept that I am Parameshwara. But it doesn't feel like that. In UP, there was, I think, a DG police or somebody. I saw in the newspaper many years ago. He used to say, I am Radha. And after office, he will go and change into that avatara, wear those clothes, and he had a lot of following as well. That is not the aikyam we are talking about. He's still equating his body, mind, sense complex to Radha, not himself. Or the many gurus who declare, I am Ishvara. You have to follow what I tell you, if you know what is good for you. I will give you a proposal you cannot refuse. Like the Godfather. He's God and the Father. But really to know yourself, the truth of oneself, after having negated everything else which cannot be I. That truth is available in this pramana called Upanishads. Each Upanishad reveals his aikyam through a Mahavakya. Various Mahavakyas appear. Anything that tells you, you and Ishvara, Parameshwara are the same as Brahman is a Mahavakya. Mahavakya doesn't mean big Vakya. Mahavakya is one that reveals that oneness. Vedanta is, every Upanishad has this as a center and then around which it tries to explain how to understand that. But such words appear also in the Karma Kanda, the Puranas. But then they are unable to, they don't go into explain like the Upanishad does. The message is the same. Any Upanishad, the message is identical. But because that is so much, it is contradictory to what I think I know, what I think I experience. It has to be presented in so many different ways. Otherwise, one Upanishad read is enough. There's no more to be done. But it does not sit. There's always elements of doubt. There's always questions. So one has to repeatedly look at it, repeatedly analyze what is said by the Shastra, till all the differences are resolved. That is possible only when I go with an attitude saying that I know. If I go with that attitude that I know, no way you're going to get, because you cannot resolve the difference. I go with the attitude saying that there is something I have understood, I think, but there are flaws in my understanding. The sources from which I've got are open to question. With that attitude, when one sits down to expose oneself to the Upanishads, Upanishad itself says you will get it. Whether you get it right away or you get it after studying several Upanishads, after several years, depends on one's readiness. Somebody like Shankaracharya, where very early in his life got it. Others struggle. In fact, typically, if a son wants to go and learn because he's got some questions in his mind, I think he's going to find the answer only in Upanishad. All the elders in the family tell him, you wait, no. You can do this after retirement. Why are you wasting? You are such bright material. You are IIT material. IIT, California. You don't waste all this. There's certain lack of clarity. As it is, everyone has lack of clarity. All the well-wishers make it even more difficult. கீதையெல்லாம் அப்புறம் படிச்சுக்கலாம்டா, பிசிக்ஸ் படி. That's the way the world is. And there are so many Upanishads. Of these Upanishads, in the various Vedas, Rig, Sama, Yajur, Atharva Veda, the great masters, Shankaracharya, Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, the three of the most erudite masters, have written commentaries on 10, specifically Shankaracharya. Because these are, as you've seen already in certain Upanishads, and we would see in this also, very cryptic. And we bank on those commentaries to get the first entry into the understanding. There are 10 such Upanishads. Isha Kena Kato Prashna Mundaka Mandukya Taitreya Aitreya Chandogya Brihadaranyaka. From all the four Vedas, in which these commentaries are available, and we can get an insight into it, into understanding what the words of the Shastra tell us. If the message is the same in all of them, why have different names for them? You study the law of Pythagoras in geometry, whichever book you take will be called law of Pythagoras. But here it's a little more difficult. While, like I said, any one Upanishad study can give us that insight, it is often not easy to find that. Our own preparation. Therefore, you have many Upanishads, each one examining it in slightly different fashion, sometimes vastly different fashion. Therefore, these Upanishads, when we sit down to study, we have to understand, differentiate between them. How do I know which one I'm studying? Although the message is identical, the approach is different. The prakriya may be different. In almost all of them, the starting point generally is to start with what we know, which is the world, the universe. And then from there, slowly, the Upanishad guides us into understanding the truth of not only myself, but of this mysterious, unknowable energy, force, whatever called Ishvara, which everybody recognizes, calls it by different name, gives it different description. And that one unchanging Advitiya Brahman. Very often, the Upanishad is given a name depending on the first word of the Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad. For the first word is Ishavasyam Idagum Sarvam. Or Prashna Upanishad, Prashnopanishad. Because there is a set of questions asked by students. Kenopanishad. The first word in this Upanishad is Kena. What? By what? By whom? Therefore, it is called Kenopanishad. Kena Upanishad, when combined together, becomes Kenopanishad. All Upanishads are presented as a dialogue called Samvada. Vada is generally any discussion between two people called Vada. This is called Samvada, a discussion between teacher and student called Samvada. Two important inferences we can make. One, that there's a teacher and a learner. Two, that the learner has come with an attitude saying, I am student, please teach me. Shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam, Arjuna says. And the teacher will then teach because the student has come and said, I want to know, please teach me. The second, it also emphasizes the fact that this has to be learned through the sampradaya. You need a teacher. A teacher in that lineage. Sadashiva Samarambham Vyasa Shankara Madhyamam As Madacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. So it implies both. The fact that there's a teacher-student dialogue and not only does it tell us the truth of oneself, but in the commentary, because there are so many views of the understanding of the words of the Upanishad, the Bhashyakara will take at the appropriate time one of these Purva Pakshi arguments and shows how that doesn't hold any water. That is not valid. Every Upanishad belonging to a certain Veda will always start with a prayer. There are so many things which can disturb a person who's determined that I want to know. With that, he's gone to the Guru and says, please teach me. So many distractions. And of course, as we move forward in the life on earth, the distractions are only increasing. Like it is starting from the immediate family circle will discourage, say, no, 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 wait. After retirement, you can go and study. You have so many other things to do in the meanwhile. To friends who insist that we're all going on a trip to Goa, whatever, the 3 classes you miss, how does it matter? Come now. Or a spouse who shows no interest and makes it very difficult for the person to pursue that knowledge. Or physical ailments. You have to learn it, I said, from a guru through Shravanam, through the years. A person's ears start failing. Can't do Shravanam. So you should take recourse to some technology, hearing aid, some other method of hearing. could be a hindrance. A pain in the body doesn't allow the mind to focus on what is being heard. Keeps going back to that pain. So prayer is there to try and reduce these impediments, these distractions. I remember when we were sitting in the class in Anikatti with Swami G, and a lot of us sitting on the floor, some insects came in. I don't remember what insect it was. A lot of commotion, everybody moving and trying to shoot. Who was hearing what Swami Ji was saying? All these distractions were there. So we say a prayer. I am doing the sadhana. I'm trying to learn the truth. I've already discovered that all those things that everybody tells me and that I think I've inferred have gaping holes in them. May there be minimal obstructions to my knowledge. Most commonly we say Sahana Bhavatu. From Yajurveda. Purnamada, Purnamidam, also from Yajurveda. This kind of prayer is in the part of our culture. We believe, in fact, part of many cultures. Before you start anything, any project, you say a small prayer. A prayer to Ishvara or to the Guru or both. We don't make any distinction between Ishvara and Guru. In southern part of India, every page we write on, we'll put a prayer shuri. Prayer to Lord Ganesha. May there be no obstructions in what I'm doing. This Upanishad, called Kenopanishad, because the first word is Kena, also has its prayer verse before we start the Upanishad itself. In Samaveda, the prayer is Apyayantu mamangani vak prana chakshu shrotra mato balam indriyani cha sarvani sarvam brahmaupanishadam maham brahma nirakuryam ma brahma nirakarot anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu. Tadatmani nirateya Upanishadsu Brahma dharmas te mai santu. Te mai santu. And always end with Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let's look at what it says. Apyayantu mamangani vak prana chakru shrotram ato balam indriyani cha sarvani. Sarvani indriyani balam apyayantu. That's the verb. Apyayantu. May they all grow. May they all be enhanced. What may be enhanced? Sarvani indriyani. All the indriyas. May their balam grow. We go from strength to strength. May my ears work properly. May my eyesight work properly. May my prana be steady. May my manas be tranquil. These indriyani, indriyas, what are they? Vak, prana, chakru, shrotra, and manas. Vak, prana, chakru, shrotra, mato, balam, indriyani, ta sarvani. Vak is one of the 5 karmendriyas. The classes are being held at Ashwavidyalaya. I have to be able to reach Ashwavidyalaya. I have to be able to ask questions. The questions will be there. I have to clarify all the doubts. I need vak. I also need all the other karmendriyas, so that the body is kept physically alert, in good condition, so that there is no distraction because of ailments in the body. We also say the other very common prayer. Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sarve santu niramaya. Amaya is disease. May everyone be without disease. Normally, all our prayers is not centered on only I, although it is there because I am the one who has to do the shravanam. But if people around me are highly disturbed, then it's not going to be any good for me, because I will not be able to, with a clear mind, do shravanam or mananam. So vak representing all the karmendriyas. Prana, prana, apana, all of the pancha pranas. May my physiological functions work well. May I not have indigestion or stomach going gudu 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 gudu. All my pranas, all my jnanendriya, chakshu, shotra, ears, eyes, all my senses, may they be alert. May my mind be tranquil, so that I can do shravanam. I have the capacity to do mananam. My memory is also included. My memory has a lot of things stored in it. And most of them are contrary to what Upanishad is telling me. So each one of them I have to compare, I have to do analysis to remove any possible doubt they may create. Therefore, all the angas, please may they grow in their balam. Apyayantu mamangani vak prana chakra shrotra mato balam indriyani sarvani. Then there is one very profound sentence. Sarvam Brahmaupanishadam. I have to understand Brahman. May I, with clarity, understand everything is Brahman. Sarvam Brahmaupanishadam. This Sarvam means literally Sarvam. No exceptions. Ishavasham idagum sarvam. Everything here is at Ishvara. That Ishvara is I. It is not like, oh, most of these things are Ishvara. Some few things are exceptions, no exceptions. Tangible, intangible, big, small, near, far away. Everything is nothing but that Brahman. Nothing but Parameshwara. Everything is born of Parameshwara. And that everything includes my own body, my own mind, my own senses, my own thoughts. How do I know them? They are Upanishadam, known only through the pramana called Upanishad. Brahma Upanishadam. Upanishadam Praptam. Upanishadam Pramanakam. This is not, we don't ask you to believe, but understand what is my nature. My nature is Brahman. Brahman is defined as Satyam Jnanam Anantam. That Brahma sa Atma, I. That Brahman is I. Nothing else can be I. There's so many mistaken notions about I. That I is not separate from, is not different from Parameshwara, who is Jagat Karana. Therefore, I am Jagat Karana. Not an easy idea to accept and assimilate. If you ask me to believe I am the Karanam, the reason for the existence of everything in the Jagat, impossible to visualize. Because the same error. I am thinking of I as this body mentions complex. Like our friend from UP thought he was Radha. As long as that is stuck in our head, it's impossible to understand the sentence. Iruppadellam Irevane. Sarvam Brahma. Sarvam Brahmamayam. Everything is inhaled by that Brahman. And that Brahman is I. Sa Atma. This understanding, this clarity, by using Vedanta as a pramana and using clarity of arguments, by using analysis, not by simply believing what it says or what the Guru says. Swami Ji used to say, you have to follow what the Guru says, not swallow it. That means you must have doubts, you must have questions, all of which in time will resolve. Because all these questions and doubts which a brilliant mind like yours has come up with have come up before by minds which are at least as brilliant as yours and have been answered. So there is no need to rediscover all there. That Tat Padam in Tat Tvamasi, that Mahavakyam, talks about Idam Sarvam. Tat is simply that. What does it include? Every this, every that is included in the Tat Padam. That Tat Padam is Jagat Karanam Parameshwara. That Tat Padam is everything. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. That is the Tat Padam. It goes on to say, Tat is Tvam, is you. How is possible? Some amount of Shraddha, lot of Shraddha in fact, is needed. Without that Shraddha, we can't even start. When the Upanishad says, Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam, may I, with my clear mind, which is always strengthened, with all my senses, understand this sentence. And that Brahman is I. If I don't have that clarity, I go to 2 classes and then repeatedly the teacher is saying, you are Brahman, you are Jagat Karanam. It's because of you that everything is here. I don't understand. Everybody else has told me I am Alpa. I am limited. Suddenly one Upanishad comes and says, no, you are everything. I don't understand the Tatparya. Therefore, I give up the study of Brahman, the study of myself. I reject Brahman. If I do that, that's the end of it till I go through a whole cycle of punya again and come back to studying this. May that not happen. Maham Brahma Nirakurya. May I not reject Brahman. Either because I'm not able to understand in the first few rounds of learning, or because someone gives me an argument which sounds very logical, or someone gives an argument which sounds very tempting. What is all the Brahman Shaman? You don't know anything about it. work towards getting into Swargaloka or Jannat or heaven. How do I get there? So you just follow what I tell you to do. You don't understand what you're trying to do. Don't try to understand. You don't need to understand. You just believe what I tell you and come with me. You do that for some time till another fellow comes and says, no, that heaven he's talking about is useless. I will give you a better heaven. You come with me. All these, may that not happen. May I not give up on my study of Brahman. Ma ham Brahma nirakuryam. May I not reject Brahman. May I not give up on Brahman. May I not give up on my study of the Brahman, despite the fact that it's not clear to me. And to do that, I need Ishvara's grace. To know that I am Ishvara, I need Ishvara's grace. You need grace to gain grace. Ma Brahma nirakarot. What is this Ishvara's grace? How do I gain this grace? Where is it available? Can I go and buy it in the supermarket? We will look at Ishvara's grace in some detail tomorrow for the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.